Yay Media Group.
13 has been my lucky number for a while. Like, it's always a sign of good things to come for me.
This is 13, a Taylor Swift fan podcast, breaking down every song, every Easter egg, every era, and every theory. Hosted by the biggest Swifties, Nick Adams, Anna Zabo, Amy Nichols, and Lacey G.
Welcome to 13, a Taylor Swift fan podcast. I'm Nick Adams.
I'm Anna. Amy. And I'm Lacey G.
And today we are breaking down track number 27 on the Tortured Poets Department.
Wow.
Cassandra, 27. And there are 31 songs on this album. So we're getting towards the end.
Sir. That's crazy.
Yeah. This song is written by Taylor Swift and Aaron Dessner.
Yay.
So, Amy, does this have a special... Does this tug at your heart a little bit because it's an Aaron Dessner song?
I love the second half of TTPD. I really, really do. I think it's going to just be all of my top 5.
Yeah, for sure it will be. And that's okay.
Yeah.
So before we get into breaking down the lyrics and everything like that, let's listen to a little voice memo that Miss Taylor Swift put out where she's talking about kind of the inspiration and meaning of this song. Crazy, she knows Aristotle and Greek mythology.
Greek mythology. I'm
Wow.
dying to know what the other title was going to be.
Yeah.
Because she was about to say it, or...
No, it's this.
No, it's good. Like, what was the other one? Like, I was even trying to think, like, what would be another title for this song?
The Curse. She was doing a bunch of the songs.
Maybe when we read some more of the lyrics,
prophecy.
something might pop out to us.
Yeah. Yes. But like she said, Cassandra in Greek mythology was a Trojan priestess dedicated to the god Apollo, fated by him to utter true prophecies that were never believed. Do you think that Taylor is just casually reading Greek mythology and read something like that and was like, wait, I can relate to that, I can tie that into my own life? Or do you think that she was... Like, how did she get this inspiration? There is a lot throughout the Tortured Poets Department. There is a lot of inspiration in Greek mythology and, like, different types of, like, literature and stuff. But I'm so curious as to how she connects those ideas, because the way that she connects Cassandra from the Trojan priestess to her own life, it's kind of baffling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know? But
I know how
do
she
you
does
think?
it. I know how she does it. Taylor Swift has a really massive brain because she can do dates. She can tie stuff to everything, her vocabulary. So I think she just holds in all this information and then ties it back to it. I think she has that much knowledge, like, just at any given time. Whereas I have to research stuff to be able to figure it out.
I do think that she might like to research and fall down the rabbit hole and just learn something like, oh, okay, yeah, I can totally relate to that. I don't know if she knows everything.
Yeah. But like us, I'm just doom scrolling TikTok and Instagram at night to fall asleep. Is she just looking at Wikipedia articles about Greek mythology and stuff like that?
I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, we know that she doesn't sleep. So
Poor girl.
Yeah, but I'm always interested, especially in a song like this where there is the correlation to her life and how it's so on point, you know?
Her life, or possibly a lot of people's lives.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let's get into what she is saying here. She starts off by saying, I was in my new house placing daydreams. Isn't that what you do when you get a new house? Rooms are empty. You're just walking around, kind of hoping for the best.
Yeah, kind of
Thinking about what's going to happen in this room, what's going to happen there.
Trying to decide what you want.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm. Placing her daydreams. Patching up the crack along the wall. Oh, something's not going right. There's already a crack in the wall?
What
Uh-oh.
I feel like she's trying to, if the crack in the wall being a bad memory, trying to replace it with a daydream.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. And she's in a new house, so we're having a new beginning.
Yeah.
She's leaving something that wasn't suiting her.
And she's minding her own business.
Minding her own business and patching up the cracks along the wall. I pass it and lose track of what I'm saying because that's where I was when I got the call.
So she's neglecting it. She's neglecting the crack, right?
Well, she was working on it.
But then she
patching
passes
up the
it
crack
because
along
she
the wall. I
lost
pass
track.
and lose track of what I'm saying.
I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe the call is a potential other name of the song.
Oh, yeah.
The call.
When I got the call.
I got the call.
I like that.
What do you think the call refers to?
Earth-shattering news.
It could be the literal phone call that Kim and Kanye edited.
Ooh.
It could be a call that Scooter Braun has bought her masters.
Yeah.
I kind of always feel like it's both.
Yeah.
Because when the album came out and she did her Time Person of the Year interview, she acknowledged that those were the two catalyst events in her life that, for better or worse, led her to where she is now.
Yep.
And I think by specifically saying the call, it, as you know, a general public, you think of the phone call. And then I also think of like getting the call where it was like, hey, Scooter Braun just bought your masters.
See, I'm thinking it's the second one, what you're saying here, because she's been patching something up. She's been trying to fix her life. I think that's the Kim Ye situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then just as she's patching things up, she's moving on, she's got a new house. Now she gets another call.
Right.
That's equally bad.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm wondering if it's like, okay, I've moved on. I'm wiping myself off from what happened there, and then I get another call that something else bad has happened.
And I feel like it can be both
Could be.
because throughout the song, the whole idea is that she's like struggling. She's speaking out against all of this injustice and all this stuff that's happening. She's like, Kanye and Kim are terrible people, and no one believes her. And then
Right.
Scooter Braun is a terrible person, and no one believes her. And then with due time, eventually people find out that she was right all along. You know,
Yeah.
it was years before we got the full phone call that proved she was never lying. And it was years before, like later with Scooter Braun, all of his artists ended up dropping him
Right.
for whatever reason that may be. And it's like, I've been telling you all this since the beginning.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so I feel like maybe it could be where she was in a situation where she's like, I have been in this situation before.
Yeah.
And once again, no one is taking my word for it, much like Cassandra.
Well, and listen to the next part of the song, Anna, because you just perfectly described the next several lines. When the first stone's thrown, they're screaming. In the streets, there's a raging riot. When it's, quotes, when it's burn the bitch, they're shrieking. When the truth comes out, it's quiet.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's also a lyric that a lot of people quote when things like that happen, like when something kind of like we were talking about it in like another episode. I want to say it was Thank You, Amy. And like, Nick, you made a good point that just in general, when there is like breaking news, like gossip news, whatever it is, and somebody is wrong and somebody's right, later on, even if there is a follow-up of like,
Mhm.
no, this person was actually right all along, there is not as much attention at
Yeah.
that
It's
point.
buried.
It is buried, you know, because when the truth comes out, it's quiet. And so I feel like that kind of applies to multiple situations. But I also think it's interesting to note that in the demo, which we couldn't play the whole song because of the music, but the original lyric was when the first shot's fired, they're screaming, but she changed it to when the first stone's thrown, which I think is interesting because throughout the entire album, she has been making so many biblical references. And by changing it from shots fired to stones thrown, it
Mhm.
connects it to
David and Goliath.
Well,
Right?
it's like
Well-
like an antiquity of it. It
Yeah.
ages it.
It makes it older.
Yeah.
You know,
more
you
of
can,
like a prophecy,
yeah.
if you will.
You know,
Which
if
this is following up the prophecy.
Right. Which I
And
do
if-
think that's interesting placement.
if we're talking about the first idea was killing someone, a shot fired, that's a very modern way to kill someone, relatively modern. But if
Yeah.
you're changing it to stone's throw, I mean, stoning someone was what they would do
Mhm.
thousands of years ago. They didn't have guns, so you would throw a stone at them. You'd
Yeah.
stone someone.
Right. It's an idiom that means to be. It's an idiom that means to be the first to attack someone or
Mhm.
something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just like a little detail that makes a lot of difference.
And also, when the truth comes out, it's quiet
Mhm.
line. Someone on Reddit, Dominant Jeans on Reddit, said, immediately made them think of the Kate Middleton story. That everybody was speculating, where is she? What's going on? She's missing. And that was a big to do. And then she comes back and ends up, I have cancer. I've been away from the public. And then that wasn't nearly as big of a story as it
Right.
was whenever she was missing. That was all the headlines. Then it's like the little headlines is, oh, no,
Yeah.
princess is alive. But
Well,
here's what's going on.
And I even think like in real time with the whole Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni situation, like when that movie came out and there was so much negative press about, I mean, the both of them and the drama and the legalities, and then they start suing each other. This has been going on for so long now that I feel like whatever the truth ends up being at the end of it, people aren't going to care as much then as they did when it was like such a huge,
Sure.
you know, story. Now, like even I mean, part of my job is to keep up with like pop culture and things like that. And even I'm getting kind of like, here's another lawsuit. Here's another,
Absolutely.
you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's like, whatever the truth may be in that situation, regardless, it will not make as big of a splash as their names and situation was when it was all first happening.
Which is terrible because when someone's name is cleared years later,
People
then
don't- people
they don't
forget.
remember that.
right,
They don't care.
Mhm.
right.
Well, and I think immediately going into the next line. So they killed Cassandra first because she feared the worst. Well, in Greek mythology, she wasn't killed first. So here, Taylor is rewriting the narrative because she didn't die until well after this war. So is this just rewriting it because this is how people are going to remember the story? It's not true, but that's how people are going to remember it one day. That
Oh,
they're going to
interesting.
forget all the other important details, like she was not the first to die. She lived for a very long time, but that's unimportant in this story because we're rewriting it and reframing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting.
And tried to tell the town. So they filled my cell with snakes. I regret to say, do you believe me now?
Yeah, I
And
mean,
just before this, she said, even when I tell the truth, it's quiet. When the truth comes out, it's quiet. No one's listening to me. They're running around saying, burn the bitch. She's like, I'm trying to tell you guys the truth. They're throwing me in a jail cell. They're filling it with snakes.
Yeah.
right.
You guys believe me yet? Hello?
Right. And when everything was happening with the Kim and Kanye phone call, which we have talked about extensively just because of other songs on the album. Specifically,
Thank you,
thank you,
Amy.
Amy. If you want to go back to that episode, we have a full timeline breakdown of everything that happened. But when it was all happening and Taylor was saying, like, no, these people are not acting in good faith, and the popular public opinion was just to simply not believe Taylor.
Yeah.
Not even try to. I feel like a lot of people didn't even try to have the sympathy. It was like, oh, Taylor Swift is over party. Let me jump in on that without fact checking anything.
Yeah.
You know, and the public just completely turned on her. And then eventually, to fill my cell with snakes is also the tie-in with
Cell phone and
cell phone.
blowing her up with the snake emojis.
Yes. And then I also read that in the myth of Cassandra, some versions of the story say that she received the gift of prophecy after sacred snakes licked her ears clean while she slept in Apollo's temple.
Ew.
And that but then was cursed to be disbelieved. Like the reason, like the catalyst event for that was that her ears were like licked by snakes. So that tying in with the fact that Taylor was flooded with snake emojis. Kim Kardashian even tweeted at one point being like, oh, it's National Snake Day. What a coincidence.
Yeah.
Like, whatever. Taylor took that power back, obviously, with Reputation, but
And Lover, Snakes and Stones Never Broke My Bones.
yeah.
So I mean, she has addressed it and embraced it. She had the big snake Karen for the Reputation tour.
Karen with a Y.
Yeah, for sure. I heard for the Greek mythology, I thought the reason that she was given the site of prophecy was because she turned down Apollo, and so Apollo, she's like no, so to curse her, gave her the site of prophecy, but the downside was no one would believe her. So she was able to say this, but people would not believe her no matter what.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. A blessing and a curse.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think I read somewhere that the prophecies that she would tell were so devastating that people didn't want to believe her. But she was right all along.
She continues by saying, I was in my tower weaving nightmares, twisting all my smiles into snarls.
So earlier she was in a house, patching up the cracks. Now she's in a tower, weaving nightmares, which
Right.
is just interesting that she's taken such a shift.
Right.
Yeah.
She went from
This already.
daydreams to nightmares.
Yeah.
Mm.
And locked away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, locked away, separated. Makes me think of Rapunzel,
Yeah.
Yeah.
my
The-
tower.
Yeah, the princess.
Which also fits into the fact that Taylor did isolate herself
Mm-hmm.
after
Yeah.
the phone call. You know, nobody saw me for a year. You know, she did choose to isolate herself. And then I also read that in ancient Greece, women were admired for their beauty and their skills of weaving. And Taylor's suggesting, though, that she's powerless, you know, because she's in her tower, like, weaving nightmares. But the women of Troy, which would include Cassandra, could do nothing but weave and watch from their tall towers as men fought in the 10-year Trojan War outside of their city walls, which would eventually lead to the destruction of their city. But yeah, it's basically like all the men are out there fighting, and I'm here in my tower weaving nightmares.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They say what doesn't kill you makes you aware. What happens if it becomes who you are?
So that's interesting because I thought it's typically what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Right. But what doesn't kill you makes you aware?
Because she's seeing all these,
She knew the truth.
yeah, and she's seeing the tragedy and knowing what's coming. So it hasn't killed her, but she's very aware, and she's the only one who knows. And now it's who she is because she's trying to tell people this is what's going to happen. This is what's happening.
Yeah.
And people aren't believing her.
It's like what doesn't kill you gives you knowledge.
Yeah.
Makes you smarter. Like you know to avoid that next time.
And it becomes your personality.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you're untrusting. Like, what happens if it becomes who you are? Like, later on, when somebody tries to, befriend her, she's probably going to be really cautious, really guarded, really cautious. I mean, she keeps her circle tight for a reason, you know?
So they killed Cassandra first because she feared the worst, and they tried to tell the town. So they set my life in flames. I regret to say, do you believe me now?
Yeah.
Burning all the witches, even if
Mhm.
you aren't one.
That's so haunting with, like, the do you believe me now? Like, what does it take for you to finally just believe me? Like, why couldn't you just believe me at the first go-around?
Right.
Why does it take years, and why does it take people being the awful people that I told you that they were?
And it's also, she's saying, I tried to tell the town, but they set me ablaze anyways. Like,
Right.
I tried to tell you, and you're still burning me down?
Yeah.
Like, man, that sucks.
I know.
No one's believing me.
Yeah.
And then we move on to the bridge. They knew the whole time that I was on to something.
She's really nailing it home, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They knew.
Hollywood, the
talking?
public, the music
Yes.
industry, all the people.
They all knew that I was onto something. And I feel like this could apply again to both the Kanye Kim situation and Scooter.
Because, I mean, Scooter then was laughing with his little bully of artists that are all laughing at Taylor Swift, Kanye West, Justin Bieber. Then, since then, he's lost his wife and then lost all of his clients, right? I mean, Justin did step away from him. I think he was the last one.
From Scooter, yeah.
Yeah, I believe. But then in a span of like 2 days, all these artists left Scooter Braun, which is also making a statement. We don't know what happened. Did Taylor actually turn him into the FBI for white collar crimes? Is he going down? Did people see something so much bigger and decide to boldly make a statement together without making a statement that we're all going to walk away? That's making a statement. Maybe
Yeah.
you have an NDA and you can't say what it is.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, totally. And then the next line,
Yeah.
the family, the pure greed, the Christian chorus line.
They all said nothing.
So a lot of people think that that's just straight up the Kardashians right
Totally.
there. That is the Kardashian family with their greed, that they have given up a lot just to be able to cash in, that their motto is work harder. They don't care how much money they have. Work. That's the most important thing to me, is that and money, and just giving everything up. Christian chorus, someone pointed out Kris Jenner. Kris Jen, just the first part of her name, Christian. Is that a direct line to the Kris Jenners and
I
that
don't
out there?
know.
Or even down to their church?
Yes.
Because
That's what I was thinking.
That's what I thought.
Kris Jenner owns a church called California Community Church. But they never said a prayer for my soul. Blood's thick, but nothing's thicker than a bank payroll or whatever. Sorry, I'm reading something else right now. But Kris uses this church as a tax scheme because the Kardashian sisters pay Kris a certain percentage, 10 to 20% of their income, as church tithings, which is completely tax-free income.
Allegedly.
The financial dealings of churches are also closed as well, so it's hard to investigate wrongdoing. And there's quite a few prosperity gospel-based churches that do the same. This is all research that I've seen. I don't know for sure. I'm not into tax. I don't know math. I don't do money. I don't know, but that is interesting, and you can see how that kind of goes hand in hand, how that could be a direct line calling out all of this.
Absolutely, yeah. When I am reading these lyrics, it definitely makes me think of that family. And then even the Scooter Braun of it all, blood's thick, but nothing like a payroll. You know, he has all these clients and people that stick with him.
Right.
And then now they don't.
Yeah. And the Christian chorus line part, I also thought about, to me, Kanye West started his own church.
Totally.
He did the whole Sunday service thing. But I also think it's kind of the continuous imagery that we've seen throughout the album of how people will use religion in the name of judgment.
Sure.
You know? And so it's like all of these people that deep down knew that I was right all along, they said nothing, you know? And the blood's thick but nothing like a payroll, yeah, I think that kind of applies to both. Like the Kardashians, I mean, they're known to care about fame and money over everything.
Sure.
Right? And
While many times hiding behind religion to say things, do things, how they act.
yes.
But then a lot of times they do the opposite of whatever religious faith
Right.
they have.
And it also made me think of, that line made me think of when it comes to the Scooter part of it, there were rumors way back when, unproven, so alleged rumors, that part of the reason that Taylor Swift and Karlie Kloss had a falling out was because she had something to do with letting Scooter know about like the Masters situation. And so to me, that kind of things like the blood's thick but nothing like a payroll, like there could have also been people close to her that, not that they did it for a paycheck or anything, but it's like someone that she thought was close to her ended up backstabbing her.
Yeah.
Using her to
In one way or another, you know. So
maybe
that's
there was
kinda
some
what I
sort of
thought
advantage that someone may have gotten by
Right.
letting Scooter know about the records were being up
right.
for sale.
And maybe not just, I mean, the Carly thing was like a rumor, but could have also just been people in her team.
Yeah,
that,
totally.
You know, that happens all the time, unfortunately. But I thought of that line in that aspect of the Masters.
And so she's talking about this family that's hiding behind their faith to say things and do things, but then they act opposite of what that faith preaches. And she goes on to sing, "Bet they never spared a prayer for my soul.
Right.
You can mark my words that I said it first. In the morning warning, no one heard." And in the morning warning, it's mourning like sad. Not mourning as
Yeah.
in time of day. It's mourning, grief, sadness. In a sadness, a depressed warning, but no one heard that.
Which
Yeah.
I
They're
didn't
not listening to me.
I didn't know that until
So you look at the
I
lyrics.
looked at the lyrics. I always thought it was like first thing in the morning when I
Yeah.
tried to warn everyone.
And she goes on to say, "I patched up the crack along the wall. I pass it and lose track of what I'm saying, 'cause that's where I was when I lost it all."
Yeah.
So again, I love it when Taylor does that. She makes a slight tweak to the
little-
chorus, a little line, a
little
word
subtle
here or
lyric
there.
change. Yeah.
So they killed Cassandra first 'cause she feared the worst and tried to tell the town. So they filled my cell with snakes. I regret to say, do you believe me now?
I also think that's interesting that she's saying "I regret to say" instead of like "I told you so." It's
Well-
like I didn't want to be right,
Yeah.
but I was.
And is it
Yeah.
also, I regret to say, do you believe me now? It's like, do you not want me to tell you the right thing anymore? Like, I'm sorry,
That's a good
I'm
point.
sorry I have to keep telling you this over and over.
Yeah.
I regret that. I don't want to, but like,
But do
I'm
you
still
believe me
right.
now?
yeah, do you believe
Like,
me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. And she goes on to say,
I was on.
I was onto something. They all said blood's thick, but nothing like a payroll. Bet they never spared a prayer for my soul. You can mark my words that I said it first. In the morning warning, no one heard. No one heard. Not a single word was heard. And then she does a little outro here. When the first stone's thrown, they're screaming. In the streets, there's a raging riot. When it's, quote, burn the bitch, they're shrieking. When the truth comes out, it's quiet. It's so quiet.
And it does get really quiet.
Yeah.
Like at the end of that song.
Yeah, the music kind of cuts out.
Yeah.
So
Maybe that was the original title. So quiet.
So quiet. Could be.
That could have been a good one.
So high school and so quiet. I don't know.
True. Maybe just it's quiet.
Maybe.
Or maybe just
Quiet.
quiet.
What if it was burn the bitch?
Oh,
What
that'd
if
be.
that would be.
We would have listened to that song first.
Yikes! Yeah, that'd be pretty hard.
It doesn't sound very poety though. I don't
Burn
know.
the bitch. Yeah.
Burneth. The
Burneth.
bitch.
Burn thy
Burneth
bitch.
thy bitch. That's what it would have been called.
That sounds right.
But her using the word bitch was very much on purpose. And
Yeah.
that
Oh, yeah.
was the word that caused the rift in the first place.
You're
Between
so
him and
right.
That's a good
Kanye.
point.
Yeah.
That's a great. I didn't even put that together. Wow. Yeah.
Burn the bitch. She said, don't call me that. Don't call me that.
Yeah, it works in that sense to tie it back to that situation, and it just
Wow.
works into not believing a woman, whatever she's saying in any situation.
Correct.
You're not going to believe that girl.
Yeah.
Mm.
Because she's a woman.
Good tie-in.
Damn, Taylor.
Well, so there is a lot of speculations over it. Is she talking about anything else? We've already mentioned the re-recording, Scooter Braun, Kim and Kanye, the Kardashians. Some people wonder if this could be tied into the Diddy case at all, because there were rumors for a while about Diddy, and then now everything's coming to light, and it's like, oh, this was horrible what this person was doing the whole time. And the catalyst to all that was his ex-girlfriend Cassie, who helped bring some of this to light. But it's rumored that this was going on in Hollywood, and a lot of people knew about it, and it was just covered up. So do you have somebody on the outside who's saying, like, no, there's bad things that are happening and no one's listening, and they're just, you're not big enough, we're not listening to you? Plus, the Kardashians do have major ties to Diddy, including Cassie and Khloe used to be great friends. And then they said, I don't know how this ties in, but they were once great friends, then not anymore. And then the Kardashians are just all over Diddy. Allegedly, supposedly, just some stuff that I had read. Also, people are wondering if Blood's Thick But Nothing Like a Payroll, The Family, The Pure Greed, The Christian Chorus Line, what if that had something to do with Britney Spears? With how people are wondering, like, if Britney Spears would have had a supportive family like Taylor Swift, who was actually with her and helping her throughout the process, would Britney Spears have been Taylor Swift? Instead, she had, or I mean, similar, as big in her career, but instead she had family that wanted her money, that wanted her to be this programmed machine that just goes out and makes money, but now I have a conservatorship over you and I'm taking all this money. So people are wondering, which I just thought was interesting,
Yeah, I mean,
to put those together.
You can definitely make a case for it to apply to whatever you want it to be. Because even as you were saying that, and then I started to think about Kesha, you know, and her battle against, like, Dr. Luke, because no one believed her at first. And then Taylor even funded some of Kesha's legal fees for her to be able to stay in court and fight for herself. And, like, Taylor was a part of that financially to help her. And that could apply to that as well.
Yeah.
Well, I think the overall theme might be speaking to what all of these examples are that you're
Right.
saying about how there's a woman at the center of an issue who is trying to say something and no one is
believes
listening
her.
or believing her. And so, unfortunately, whether they're specifically about those examples or not, unfortunately, they
It
can
applies.
easily apply to all of them.
Which sucks.
And we see it over and over and over, and we'll see it again next year. It'll be a different woman in a different situation, but no one will believe what she's saying. Yeah.
Someone on Reddit said, imagine the even bigger superstar Britney would have been if she'd have half the support from her family like Taylor has. She might still even be making music and enjoying it and not feeling like the cash cow she clearly was and still is for her family. We might have even gotten something similar to the Eras Tour.
Absolutely.
And they said they can see big similarities. But that's just something I never thought about, that can make such a big difference to who you are, having someone who supports you or not, having someone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And, we don't always cover every facet of celebrity gossip. We usually just stick to Taylor Swift. But at the same time, you look at, the few things that Britney Spears was doing back in the day that raised some eyebrows, and it landed her in a 13-year-long conservatorship, and she lost all of her money doing it by greedy people probably in her family. And then you look at the things that Ye's doing. Britney Spears hasn't done anything close to what Ye's doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And look what happened to Britney Spears and what's not happening with Ye.
You're so right.
I mean, there is not a single thing that Britney Spears did that's half as bad as what Kanye's doing right now.
Not even close.
Not even close. What'd she do? She shaved her head. She chased a paparazzi with an umbrella. Okay, well, they've been stalking her for 10 years. And I can see how maybe you snap sometimes. Kanye's
Right.
selling like swastikas. Like there's nothing
It's
that
a mess.
there's nothing that she did
And it
that's
just keeps happening,
yeah.
and people just keep being
Yeah.
like, "Oh, it's just Kanye."
it's just Kanye. That's Kanye's being Kanye. Well, it's at some point
At some point,
maybe some medical help should be
Absolutely.
necessary. Some medical intervention.
Conservatorship.
Yeah. I don't know.
I do have one last theory, and I think this one might be spot on. Aquarius 2 on Reddit said,
I'm an
It-
Aquarius,
oh, nice.
but my favorite number is not 2.
13.
It's 33.
What?
Sorry. So that's not my username on Reddit.
That's what you mean. Okay.
Aquarius 33 on Reddit said, in Scream 2, the main character, Sydney, plays Cassandra in a school play where she is cursed and saw it coming when it comes to the second killing spree.
Maybe.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I think Taylor, we know she was watching American Pie. Maybe she's like going through all this nostalgic and she's back in her Scream era. So she saw Scream 2 and saw Sydney playing a character, Cassandra, and knew the spree was coming, the killing spree, nobody believed her. And that inspired this song.
Anything is
That's
possible.
it.
I'm not
That's it.
saying it's true. I'm saying I read that somewhere. All right, let's hear from our listeners. But first, I want to remind everybody to join us over in the Lobster Lounge. We have so much fun talking to our lobsters, our listeners, sharing theories, and giving away stuff. So join us, station.page/13. You can sign up for free. And once you're there, you will see where you can enter in to win the official Eras Tour book. Happy 2-year anniversary to the Eras Tour. And this contest will be going on through April 19th, which is the 1-year anniversary of the Tortured Poets Department. So go join us in the Lobster Lounge, station.page/13, and make sure and enter into our giveaway for a chance to win the official Eras Tour book. So we have listeners giving us a call on our Google voicemail, 689-214-1313.
Oh, girl.
It's like I've been practicing. I haven't, but it's like I have. And our lobster, Nikki, made this connection to a song we just broke down, The Prophecy.
Hey guys, it's Nikki. I just wanted to call. I love you guys so much. So I was listening to The Prophecy when she says near the bridge at the end, when she's like, after the bridge and all that, she's like, ah, and there's the da-da-da-da-da in the background. So if you were to slow that, like kind of speed it up, but also slow down Willow from the Eras Tour, it's the exact same sound. So it just makes me think that The Prophecy, it may have been written during Willow, I don't know, during Evermore era, but for some reason every time I hear it, all I hear is just Willow and Evermore all together. Yeah, love you guys, bye.
I'm going to have to do that.
Yeah.
Slow it down.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a good tease for our next episode because I read a theory about how Peter proves that the anthology is actually the Third Sister album.
Oh, my gosh. I saw that, too.
Yeah, so we'll get into that in our next episode.
I love that.
That's what you call a tease.
Sure is. Well, that does it for this episode of 13, a Taylor Swift fan podcast. Thanks so much for joining us. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to us on whatever podcasting platform you're listening to us on right now. And all the ways to contact us are in the description of this podcast. And join us next time when we break down Peter.
Thanks for listening to 13, a Taylor Swift fan podcast. Subscribe for free and leave a positive review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Google Podcasts.